Hello and welcome back to the channel. This video today is going to show you some instructions on how to assemble a shroud for an SD70 locomotive, and the model you see in front of you is a Lionel piece that I'm trying to convert to two-rail. The shroud on some of these, if you ever get a shell, may or may not come with the assembly here for the fans. The one model I do have that has a full assembly that came with this Lionel has the louvers, the fans on top, and all the detail. However, I have one locomotive that is missing this piece, so I decided to design and develop and print a little kit that would facilitate and give me a replacement for this section of the engine's body. So the parts you see in front of you make up this kit, and I'll explain each one in detail and a suggested way of assembling the parts into a complete component that can be installed on the body of this particular locomotive. As may be quite obvious, this particular component cannot be printed in one piece, similar to the way they may have done it in injection molding, and I'm sure that the original model had separate pieces like the actual fan blades and some of the internals that are underneath this particular shroud. So now I'd like to go over the individual pieces that make up this kit. The most important piece, or two pieces, in this video is a base, and I split it in half so that I could get clean prints and it would be easy to assemble this. If I tried to print it without separating the two, I'd have a lot of excess material for build plate support, but on these two pieces I have nice clean lines, I've got very nice rivets, all the detail is there. And what I did on these parts is I utilized and put in small tiny holes for a lining. So it's dual purpose. One for a lining, and if it was so desired to drill and tap, you could mount these with screws or simply glue these two pieces together as your first step. Next, you will notice that on this particular piece, it would be the bottom portion that would fit on this model and facilitate the actual shroud and the louvers that are mounted in the shroud. The shroud has 4 louver sections, but they print as 2. So there's 2 of these on each side. You can see the build support material that I have not removed yet from these. And then what I actually will end up doing in order to get those to fit really nicely in here is I will clean them up and very lightly file the inside line edges of this and hand fit those. And they fit very nicely. The tolerances are close, and you can glue them in, and that will facilitate getting the louvers that protect the air that enters the engine body on the prototype. Now, a short explanation on the base components here that would glue together, or you could actually drill and tap these together. On the top side, what we'll eventually do is put the fan housing and glue that. We have the grill work, which will go on top of the housing. But before we get to do that, which will probably be the last step, we will have the base assembled with the shrouds. And so here is a printout of a shroud. It's pretty much cleaned up as far as any build plate support structure. And you can see that the louvers I have here do have the slight amount of structure from the printing, which I generally clean up. And once they're cleaned up, it takes about 2 seconds. The part looks just like this. So we would have two parts. And when we go to assemble these into the shroud, normally what I do, since the tolerances are so close, I will take two of these pieces and I'll slightly file down the inside of both edges and hand fit these in so everything lines up perfectly. And then with a little drop of glue, you can secure them in the frame of the shroud. So that's the steps you would need to take before you take a fully assembled shroud with the louvers. And what you would actually do on the bottom is install these in here, and you'll see they match up very nicely. They got the right kind of angle, and when you're all said and done, this will just sit on the body and everything aligns perfectly. At this point, if we were to go ahead and mount these before we put the louvers on and the shroud frames, we might want to sit here and try to figure out how we're going to get the fans mounted. And what we generally do is we'll use this particular part, which will be put on after the shrouds are in place, and the cylinders will center very nicely, and you would actually be able to facilitate either gluing these fans in place so they're solid, or if you wanted to, you could put a little rod in there so that they can turn. And if you really want to get fancy, you could motorize them, I suppose. But once this is assembled, and then you put on your fan guard, followed by the grill work, which would end up like this, and you essentially have a completed kit ready to drop into place. And you can basically secure this with the mounting hole on the body, and you can see that I have the space machined out here. I don't actually machine it, it's printed out to accommodate this mounting tab here, and it just sits on the body of the locomotive like so. And when you're all said and done, it's probably going to look better than the original. These parts here, which haven't been cleaned up, are optional. They can be attached to the shroud so that they clip in on the sides here to give it a little bit more stability. And you have the option of fixing this permanently or leaving it so you can remove it and service the insides of the locomotive if that's a requirement in the future. I hope you enjoyed this particular instructional video, and I think this kit will give you some pleasure in terms of updating your locomotive, particularly if you've picked up a shell like I did and parts are missing.